Hello, I'm Hogne, Chief Product Developer in Ecology. Last night, I was watching television, and in the program I focus on, they were going through the highest number of pharmaceutical drugs sold in Norway in 2022. The number one product sold was cholesterol lowering drugs. And in fact, to be very honest, from my perspective, you shouldn't use a product to reduce your cholesterol if you're not in a very, very high risk for cardiovascular diseases. The next group were products, painkillers. And the people in the program told us that 25% of the Norwegian population were using aspirin and paracetamol more or less on a daily basis in order to get rid of small pain elements. Number three were high blood pressure. We know that high blood pressure drugs very often can be taken away if you are able to use your body and reduce your body weight a little. And finally, on the last part from number 8, 9, and 10, it was allergy products and products for depression or mental diseases. My main take-home message is that most of the drugs sold in Norwegian pharmacies can be taken away if people are willing to do something with their lifestyle and using enough of omega-3, K2, and have enough of vitamins. Today, the topic for our conversation is brain health. And with this background, I think we definitely should be aware that we can do a lot for our brain to maintain our brain health by have a good lifestyle and with the advices you have from Ecology. Today, I am, surprise, together with Erik-Alexander Richter and Børre Jasvik. And today I will leave the word to these two eminent guys to talk more about brain health and how we can maintain or perhaps even improve our brain health. So I leave it to you, Børre, to start up and give the good advice to the audience.
Thank you, Hogne. Thank you for the introduction. So interesting. I'm pretty sure that most of the medicines, what we do in ecology is to teach people not to use the medicine, because if you do the right things with diet and exercise, you can probably get rid of most of the medicines. But today we will talk about brain health. And on this picture, you see two products, the Pure Arctic Oil Gold and the Nordic Energy Booster. The name Nordic Energy Booster could have been the Nordic Brain formula on that product, and we will explain a little bit more about that. But the combination of these two products are very, very strong in terms of having a good brain health, and we will explain that more. But in May, if you start a customer or if you become a customer with a subscription on the Pure Arctic Oil Gold, then you will have 1 month supply for free, the Nordic Energy Booster. So that will be the May product, the May promotion. So if you go to the next slide, then we see here that omega-3 fatty acids can increase brain volume. And that's very interesting, because if you have your brain volume intact, you have less risk of getting certain diseases when you get older. For instance, but we know that DHA is an important component in the body cell membranes, and it's particularly prominent in the membranes of the brain, and also actually in the eye or the retina cells. And DHA make up more than 90% of the total omega-3 fatty acids in the brain, and also up to 25, maybe 30% of the total brain fatty acid content, so 30%. So that's that they actually tell everything, how important DHA is. So if you go to the next slide. Erik, here we also see it, 30% of the fat in the brain and actually 97% of the total omega-3. So you have DHA and EPA. So DHA and EPA is 97%.
Yeah, the DHAs is very simple, and it's the number one most useful ingredient if you talk about fat in the brain. Obviously, so many more things happen in the brain, but the DHA is I would say, here's a funny thing. Hogne opened the talk today and said about statin drugs, and that they're probably not a very good idea unless you have like really, really crazy high levels of cholesterol. It's an interesting thing. What we always told the people, stop eating eggs, right? But to make sure this DHA works well in the brain, you need choline. And choline comes with eggs. If you would add 2 or 3 eggs a day to your diet with this DHA, your brain will function better. It will even add some additional cholesterol, which is important because 30% of the body's cholesterol is stored in the brain. And this cholesterol, DHA and choline work extremely well together to make sure the brain functions well. So now you can see, here's another one. In the first sheet, we also saw the link between diabetes and obesity. And we can say, and there is a direct link between the two of them, but you will talk about that more later, and the brain health, the dementia, the Alzheimer's risk. If you take statin drugs, you double the risk on diabetes within 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good they talk about that stuff on the TV, but they should go add with how can you avoid these drugs? Be more physical active, take more omega-3.
We talk about that all the time. I mean, the doctors should look more into, the diet of the patient and not just start on a
they're
medicine.
Not nutritionalists like you are. They never studied that. They study medicine.
Yes, and that's
if you look here, the brain, just for the people, so we can start with the rest. But then the people will have a little bit of a perspective. Just imagine, we have 86 billion neurons in the brain, at least if you use it well and you have sufficient DHA. 86 billion neurons. Just for the idea, okay? Think this as all the roads on the planet. Well, there is many more neurons than we have roads, okay? But just for the idea, think about all the highways are the neurons. And then we have about 1,000 to 10,000 synapses. Those are the exits. Those are the points where the highways are linked to the smaller roads into the villages and the towns. So all of that roadmap will be maintained by physical exercise, omega-3 DHA, the choline from the eggs, the cholesterol, just to make sure this all works well. I think if people now have an opening to pay attention, I think this will be it. So please, Burra, continue.
Yeah, I think because it's such an important element in the brain cell, and how we also can build more. We will talk about on the next slide. I think we can talk about the BDNF. So what is actually omega-3 doing in the brain? It's so many things. It's the neurotransmissions. We will talk about the BDNF production, because we didn't believe we could create more brain cells, but that's wrong. We really can, and we do it with something called BDNF, and we will explain that. And then omega-3 protect connections, support, when we are sleeping, there is a detox going on. It supports that. So it's very important. Of course, memory, learning, we will talk about that. And also omega-3, oxidative stress, that's how it's connected in the cell membrane. So we will talk about that as well.
again, let's go a little bit back. The page you showed, the cover of the Life Extension magazine, we more and more talk about this healthy lifestyle. I think it's a totally awesome topic, life extension in the healthiest way possible. That magazine is from 2010. Okay, that's 13 years ago. In 2016, the government in my country released a number. It says there's 276,000 people, or number like that, in the Netherlands with dementia. And at the year 2040, that means within one generation, the number of people with dementia will double. And the magazine cover said, take more DHA to increase the brain volume. Why are we not taking action? So I think this talk is so important for everybody. 1 in 3 women will develop dementia. Good to know. So let's talk about this BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, I would say, because that's what you just mentioned. We can grow new neurons, new roads, highways, exit gates, and so on.
Yeah, BDNF is for short. What you said is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. It's actually a peptide or a long-chain protein, a peptide.
You can measure it in the blood.
Yeah, and it actually it means, the name in Greek means nerve growth, growing the nerve in the brain. So what is BDNF doing? If I should explain, it's more like an aftercare of your brain, helping your neurons to heal and to make new connections in the brain. So in a nutshell, the BDNF supports the survival of neurons and brain cells. And also they make the connection, the synapses, we were talking about that, the neurons, the connection with them. So it has to do with the communication in your brain, everything that's going on in the brain with connections and communication. And of course, that's the key if you want to learn long-term memory storage and learning and understand new things. Without BDNF, it's not possible. And also, we know that when you are getting older and aging, the level of BDNF are going down. So then it's even more important to do the things to increase the BDNF in the brain. And there's certain things you can do. We will talk about omega-3 and vitamins, minerals, exercise, and so on. There's some things you can do. So what more to say, Erik? It plays a very active role in hippocampus. Yeah. So we will talk about that. What's the role in hippocampus as an example?
Use it or lose it, and the hippocampus is the central processor. We have a name for all this trouble nowadays. It's called age-related brain decline. But the age-related part basically is people get older, so they become less physical active. Therefore, lose their fitness. They don't eat as much as they should do of high-quality foods, and that's why the brain-derived neurotrophic factor goes down. And there is another thing, let's face it, people leave the school and they think, yes, finally I'm done. Throw away, burn the books, and never learn something new again. So you need all these components. If you want to have the function in the hippocampus, which is like your central processor, so to say, that's how you can, this memory, learning, spatial navigation, problem solving, reasoning, object in place memory to find back your stuff. That has to do with the maintenance of the hippocampus. And if you look here, the hippocampus, you have it in the brain. It looks a little bit like, if you would really zoom into it, looks like a little hippo horse, like a seahorse. That's where the name comes from. But here's a funny thing to know. We always thought once you lose the brain cells, they'll never come back. But it has everything to do with the size of the hippocampus, which is directly related to, and now you look at the white image on the right corner side, the red blood cell, EPA and DHA. It's what we call the omega-3 index. We test for this. The higher is the index, the bigger the volume of the hippocampus, the better you can deal with the stuff on the top of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much.
So here's the exercise. That's this thing you love. Well, and many people do in our organization.
Yeah, there is a lot of studies, as we know, Erik, that suggest that intense, or you don't need intense, but intense is maybe better. But aerobic exercise is the most effective physical activity to increase your BDNF level, and then you get immediate results. And so if you don't exercise and you start to do it one time, it actually have impact right away. But even better is when you do it regularly. And then you see here HIIT, high intensive interval training. It's even a bigger impact. I think it has to do with the short-term stress factor, and also that you breathe very heavily. So that's most likely or possible the reason why you get even more effect with that type of training. But you get more BDNF by just walking. If you walk 3 times per week for half an hour, you will have a lot of effect with more BDNF.
You can even say every extra exercise for the brain is beneficial. So on the photograph, the black one, on the left side, you can see these main neurons building new exits on these highways, so to say. So more BDNF is your maintenance and development of new of these exits. So now you have more connections to other parts in the brain. On the right side, without the BDNF, you don't see that much. So again, it's the combination: physical exercise, sufficient DHA.
Yeah. We also know, Erik, that if you look at things that are making the BDNF going down, it's many things. But stress is one thing. Maybe if you sleep poorly.
Yeah, not enough sleep.
That's another one. We know obesity, insulin resistance, and these things are also reducing BDNF. So exercise will also help on the negatives. But we will talk more about the negatives. But exercise is so important, and that's why we have it early in this presentation, because we believe that exercise, omega-3, and when you exercise, is the key for having more BDNF.
So what else can we do?
So what more we can do? Here we see of course, on the top, consume the pure Arctic oil gold. And we already mentioned why DHA is so important. And you see exercise, and then intermittent fasting, or, not eat all the time. And why is that important, Erik, to do the fasting?
Well, this periodic prolonged fasting means you don't eat for a couple days, or very low calories, maybe 1 or 2 days, no food at all, maybe some drinking or not even drinking at all. You can choose for both. And what's the biggest benefit from this? If you stop eat, then your blood sugar level stabilizes. And at a certain point, and that won't take long, let's say half a day later, you run out of glucose. Okay, you take up all the reserves from the liver, from the tissues, from whatever. So now you run out of glucose, so it's difficult to produce ATP, which is fine because the body now can turn into burning fat. As soon as you start to burn fat, some other process starts. We call this beautiful name. That's a topic on its own. It's autophagy. We mentioned it before with combination with the vegan shake. This autophagy now starts to clean up the interior of the cell and even the extracellular matrix, and it will swap away a misfolded protein, which is the marker for the development of Alzheimer. These misfolded proteins, we call them tau proteins, beta amyloid plaques. And you can clean them out your brain by fasting and by generating new exercise. But now the exercise comes back again, because exercise doesn't just grow new neurons, but it also takes away the old damaged proteins you want to get rid of. So this combination is superb: oil, fasting, exercise.
It's also if you can do a longer fast. So if you do, you don't have to, but sometimes when you stress your body and you do a longer fast, it can also be very helpful, because when you fast longer, you get into ketosis. So you're burning fat for energy, and fat are turning actually with ketosis to sugar, or we call it ketones. When you are in that state, there is a lot of studies giving extremely good result on the BDNF, and it increases with 200%, 300%, and even higher within 48 hours. So to do this period fasting, when you do a little bit longer, is also very beneficial.
Yes, and it helps to reduce insulin resistance, which is directly beneficial for the brain. Not that the brain cells need insulin to take up glucose, but they need insulin to repair the brain.
Yeah.
The brain can't get insulin resistance on its own unless you have very severe form, which then develops Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here
then
we have the next one are what we call the short-term stress on the body. So it's cold therapy and heat therapy. And why is this so beneficial then, Erik?
In the cell membranes, we have something we call heat shock proteins. And if you do more of the cold therapy, for example, these heat shock proteins will also start up a repair process, and it will also turn white adipose tissue cells more into brown adipose tissue. And the brown adipose tissue are metabolically very active fat cells, adipocytes, and they produce more heat. So like a child, sometimes, people, they put the children in very warm clothes because they feel cold, so the kids should be cold. But it's not, because the children have a very high amount of brown adipose tissue, which will come back if you take more of this cold therapy. So they can keep themselves warm very well. And the same with heat therapy. Again, there's many, many benefits for repair of tissues. You can do that in the sauna and stuff. You can. For me, I like more the heat therapy than the cold, but they're both very good.
We see on the next on Nordic Energy Booster, I think we will come back to that, why it's so important. I will talk a little bit about, you can talk about the magnesium on that part, but I will talk a little bit about the vitamins in the Nordic Energy Booster. But let's go on the list. We also see that get plenty of sunlight. And we know that even we were talking about walking. People that are exercising in fresh air get more BDNF than people exercising in a more polluted environment. But to get sunlight and fresh air is also important. So to be out, less stress, and walking and being in the sunlight, getting some D vitamin, it's very important. If you don't have the sunlight and you are not producing vitamin D3, you can of course take the called D3K2. It will help you. Yeah.
But I would recommend to always take the D3 and the K2, and in the wintertime, maybe even double. But the sunlight is much more than just production of D3, which is a very important factor. But sunlight always also gives information for the brain to the eyes. So the light spectrum is huge, and you need this information. And one of the things the sunlight is doing, if you stay outside, preferably a little bit in the middle of the day, for about 20 minutes, then it will kickstart something else. It's another growth factor. It's called the human antimicrobial peptide. So human for people, antimicrobial. So sunlight on its own, even without the D3 production, will kickstart your immune system to clean out bacteria, viruses, pathogens, and such. And we know about that because look, in the summertime, the young kids, they don't have as much acne or even no acne versus the wintertime. That's because of these antimicrobial peptides kickstarted in by real sunlight. Okay, so
Yeah, good. We need to hurry on, Erik. We have just 26 minutes.
Phytonutrients and
I
sleep.
feel we just started.
Yeah.
So
here you can see what happens. The BDNF again on top. 15 years ago, we never spoke about BDNF, and now we do it like on a daily basis almost. If you have on this left side the fish, which is the polyunsaturated fatty acids, plus the olive oil, the monounsaturated fatty acids, and very, very important, including the polyphenols in there. So omega-3 and 6, you need both, but of good quality and in a good ratio. You can take some occasional glass of red wine. It's not necessary, but it is okay. Now, this will raise BDNF, it will lower inflammation, aging, and it will improve insulin sensitivity. But don't forget, it's not just the food. It requires the exercise, and it requires this diet, but lots of polyphenols, antioxidants, and all kinds of nutrients. The polyphenols we can find in the oil, in the lutein is a very important one, and they keep the brain fit. Whereas on the right side, it's just the opposite. That's the modern Western diet. Funny foods, passive lifestyle, saturated fats, simple carbs, no BDNF, lots of inflammation, aging, and very low insulin sensitivity. Therefore, people develop overweight or obesity and super high, much higher risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Erik, I think also it's worth mentioning in the pure oil and the pure oil gold, because we have the polyphenols from the olives. They are high, so the oil is high in polyphenols, and that's also a very big plus. You have it here on the list.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that there is. People think, oh, we added olive oil. No, we didn't. We added polyphenols and 8 different types of vitamin E, and there is 200 polyphenols in our oils, but they come with the liquid, which is the oil from the olives, from the very old trees. Yeah. So that's just the carrier. It's not about the olive oil, it's about what is in it. And this combination works miracles in combination with exercise. But what about the Nordic Energy Booster? How could this add to a healthier brain?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to talk. You can talk of the minerals, but if you just look at the vitamins, so in the Nordic Energy Booster, there's essential vitamins for keeping your brain in good shape, and then you are also with the vitamins protecting your most vital organ. So let's look at the key vitamins in the Nordic Energy Booster and why it's so important. So number one, we have the vitamin B1. It's called thiamine, and it's required to keep the brain functioning properly. And it's very important to form neurotransmitters in the brain. And they are responsible for sending signals throughout the body. So vitamin B1 is key. Then we have the other vitamin B2, also called riboflavin. And that's also a part, that vitamin is also part of vitamin B12. And it plays an important role in the formation of red blood cells and the metabolism of fat and also then cholesterol. Hogne was talking about that, fat and cholesterol. And the synthesis of DNA, RNA, and neurotransmitters in the brain. Okay, what more? Then we have more vitamins. We have the B3 or niacin. It's an important vitamin for energy productions, and that's why we maybe call this product the Nordic Energy Booster. It's very important for an energy production. So it's also linked, if you don't have it, very much linked to aging. So we don't want the brain to age. And then we have folate, and that's required to produce new cells and many, many more things. What more? We have the biotin. It's also about energy. So energy for the brain, the BDNF. And then we have the vitamin C. Vitamin C, we know that because you have told it so many times, Erik, it's important for the collagen production. But also collagen is very, very important for the formation or producing new brain cells, collagen. And then you have the vitamin C supporting that. So yes, there is so many important vitamins in the Nordic Energy Booster, and that's why it's a very good product together with the omega-3 we have for the brain. And then we have the magnesium. You can talk about that later, Erik. But yes, so basically it's as much a brain formula as an energy formula, energy booster.
Yes, it absolutely is. And then, the magnesium, the zinc, we will see later. Copper, very important to connect all these neurons, because without copper, that's impossible. Iodine, very important for the thyroid function. To make sure you can metabolize iodine, you do need the selenium, which is in there as well. The chromium is very important for your insulin production. And the other ones I'll take up later on. So when I always say, people say, what makes this formula unique? Nothing and everything. There is nothing in there you think, okay, you can't find this anywhere else. But the blend from this, the mixture and the ratios and the levels of everything together makes it work just about for everyone. You take it too late in the evening, you can't even sleep. And there is nothing in there to promote, wake up. It gives you focus and energy. So you experience this right away. This works 100% for the brain.
The Nordic Energy Booster has been extremely successul for ecology, and
we keep on improving it. It's not even an end state.
But I really think, why is it so successful? Well, you said it, because of the formulation, everything together, and how it's with the doses and everything, and formulation all together. People and the customers really feel a difference when they take it, and that's why it's bought over and over and over again. If you stop, you feel it
right away. It's the number one product we have, which has like sort of an instant result, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely. And it also works on insulin resistance. That's why the chromium is in there. What's all these B complex, this magnesium, to make sure you can produce ATP energy within the cell. What do you want to add to this?
Yeah, we know that metabolic syndrome, it's when you get insulin resistance, you get diabetes 2. And we know that diabetes 2 is again connected to Alzheimer's. So you need
this sheet.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can see the I would say whatever symptoms or whatever situation happens on the type 2 diabetes side happens on the Alzheimer's or dementia side, which is not the same. Okay, just to make sure people understand. But maybe you can talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, it's actually the same. You said it. It's the same characters of the two diseases. So, but here is the thing: if you have metabolic syndrome and you get diabetes 2, you have 1.6% higher chance of getting Alzheimer's disease. And also, we know that the people born, I think it's worldwide, but at least it's in the US, in the States, 40% that of the newborns, 40%, of everyone born in the US, 40% will get Alzheimer's disease. So it's scary. And we
Yeah, but
can
I
actually,
think the other one you said 1.6%. I think it's 1.6 times the risk. That means relatively 60% higher risk for developing Alzheimer's if you have type 2 diabetes.
that's what I
Because
meant.
really, yeah, so it's not the
So
1.6%, but 1.6 times.
60% higher. 60%
And
higher.
that's simple because that's why nowadays we call dementia diabetes type 3, because it happens due to vascular calcification. So you can develop vascular dementia. This can happen with an unhealthy mouth where you have root canals or extractions and stuff like that, and you have little inflammatory stuff going on. This will cause a thyroid disorder, and this will generate a disorder in the carotid, which is a very important artery here. You mentioned before the sleeping time is very important. Now just imagine if this carotid is clogged up for, let's say, 60%, and I sleep on the right side. Now I close this gate. So flushing the brain, taking off the toxins is almost impossible. But if you take the K2, and even if the K2 is not really working in the brain, but it makes sure the arteries stay clean, combined with magnesium and omega-3, now you can avoid this. Because see the middle level here, inflammation is omega-3. Oxidative stress is lack of omega-3. Impaired insulin signaling, which you just mentioned. Cognitive deficits is not moving enough, not enough DHA, not enough brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Low levels of vitamin C means not enough collagen production, means a leaky gut. It starts in the gut and then it works all the way up to the brain. And on the side, you can see increased fasting blood sugar level is an effect of impaired insulin signaling. Obesity, 60% higher risk for diabetes and so for dementia. More fat cells and increased adiposity, obesity, means these cells will produce pro-inflammatory cytokines, will damage the brain. On the right side, from the Alzheimer, now in the blue part of the brain, AB plaques and the A-beta plaques, the tau proteins and all those. That's why you need to do the fasting. Otherwise, you will get neuron loss and these tau tangles down there. So this is what it is. And it's not just a nice image. It's studied that you came with this sheet.
Yeah, it's actually done from USC, University of Southern California, LA, in Los Angeles. And what they study is that if you have untreated diabetes 2, so you end up with diabetes 2, then you have this 1.6 times high risk of getting Alzheimer.
Very important is ecology lifestyle. Make sure you don't treat diabetes type 2, you reverse it. I think that's much more. Otherwise, you wind up, but Hogne said, more medicine. That's not what we need.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have already talked about intermittent fasting, autophagy. One of the best things you can do to avoid diabetes 2 is to go into autophagy now and then. And then because then your insulin resistance will be restored. So even if you eat shitty food, you still have a good chance of not getting diabetes by doing it that way. But if you like to eat bad, then you at least need to go into autophagy.
At least if you go eat bad, don't go by car. Walk.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, this is also, you need to restore the insulin sensitivity to reverse the insulin resistant. This all comes with the physical exercise, kind of the right food, the energy booster, and the omega-3, which then together generate more BDNF. And the BDNF is what we use here, right? So we have all these different, many more. Again, the brain is very, very complex. But just, I mentioned high intensity interval training, but Barry, you said just walking, regular walking, and regular, please, that is within a week frame, okay? 3-4 times a week. Take a dog, okay? So you walk on a daily basis. Regular walking helps to improve the health of the brain's white matter, okay? So it doesn't shrink. And now you can have all these brain cells work much better. It's not, again, just the walking. You found some very interesting sheets. I will show them now, unless you want to add something here about why this omega-3 and omega-6 actually is important in the brain.
Yeah, You can explain this.
So in the middle here, this line from the left to the right, let that be a membrane. Okay, we have 30 million, 39 billion, trillion cells, 39 trillion cells in the body, and each of these cells have a cell membrane. Now, here's the thing. This is tissue specific. We measure the red blood cells with our tests, so we have something to compare. So I don't say, oh, yeah, but you took it from the eye, you took it from your butt, and you took it from a red blood cell. No. We always use red blood cells. But now every tissue has a specific composition, a preferred composition in fatty acid construction of the membrane. So on the top here, you can see, let this be one of these microglial and a membrane with a little basket in the box in the middle. So the ones on the left are the deoxidized ones. So what do you need to do to replace them? Add top quality omega-3 and omega-6. But you measure that you don't take too much 6. It should be in the right ratio. See here, you got two omega-3 molecules and 2 omega-6 molecules. So 1-to-1, that's the ratio. And now you need to have sufficient index. But for both, it is very important. And that is why we have a full spectrum omega-3. If you look at the whole spectrum of the omega of the product, the gold or any of the ones we have, you can see even some omega-6 fatty acids in there, but not oxidized. You eat a good piece of meat that's a quality omega-6 in there, but you fry it at a too high temperature, you roast it, then the 6 omega-6 molecules will get damaged. You still need them, okay? So, but it takes a long time. Now, here is an additional benefit. If you take the pure article gold, it contains DHA, and it's not oxidized, though. It doesn't smell after any fishy taste. So what does it do, actually? This is something funny. DHA is extremely prone to oxidation unless you take the quality we have, and now this oxidation, what you see long here, this ROS means reactive oxidant species. They damage the membrane, but the DHA will, as another sort of a growth factor, will go all the way down to the cell, not to the cell nucleus, but into the cell. It will activate a protein, which then will activate your own antioxidant system. Beautiful name. So what will happen? It will make sure the body produces glutathione, it produces catalase and superoxide dismutase. These are super fast antioxidants produced by your body, and the trigger to produce them is the DHA in our bottle, and so is the lutein. So that's why we can build very healthy cell membranes. Now, this looks like everything is the same. That's not true. I'll show that later. But, Burra, you did some research, and it takes 6 to 12 months to replace all that stuff?
Yeah, because omega-3s, they come into the cell membrane, but quite slowly. You are able to build more healthy cell membranes with omega-3, but to get full effect, it takes from 6 to 12 months before it enter into the cell membranes in the brain.
In the brain, yes.
The brain cell membrane. Yeah, brain cell membrane.
The red blood cells are easy accessible. That only takes 120 days. So people, this is where things go sort of wrong. We do the test on day 1. We use the oil for 6 months. We see a much better result in the red blood cell, and then people stop. But it takes at least another 6 months, because the first 6 months is the correction. You go from low to normal, let's say an 8% index. It takes another 6 to 12 months before you get all that omega-3 in the brain, because this goes way slower. This renewal of the brain cells take much longer. So
actually, the information I found, the study I found, or the information I found, Erik, is actually, it says it can take up to years. So if you have had a very bad diet for many, many years, it will maybe take even
or
longer.
Maybe if you had a lot of children, because women get a child or get a couple children within a couple of years. And if the food is not rich enough in DHA, what does the placenta do? It will release enzymes to break down part of the brain of the mother to release the DHA so the little child can come on the planet with another new brain. So that's you're donating
I think
your
it's good
brain.
news. I didn't know these things when I was, because we always heard that, the brain cell, they are there and then they die. And at least now you can improve the membrane of the cell in the brain with good diet. That's really good news.
So the placenta needs a minimum of an index of 10. Okay, so it will make sure it get that, but just releasing the fats from the mother, and where is most of the DHA? In the brain of the mom. So that's where it will be released. But just imagine if the mom remains her index of 12, not 8, 12 during the whole pregnancy, then the child will always have sufficient omega-3 and it can develop the best. But those who haven't done it, they need to understand that you may have to take what you just mentioned, 2 to 3 years in the gold to make sure you restore whatever you donated to your children. I think we need to hurry a little bit. We get excited. So again, here in the left corner, you see the cell membrane again, but it is not all and the same. On the top, you can see one of these synapses, and it sends neurotransmitters from the one to the next into this little gap, so to say. I'm not sure how they call this. The synaptic, postsynaptic membrane. So this goes from one to the next. But it's not like they just drop it and it fall in the next receptor. This receptor on the bottom, as this is the blue one there, okay? What happens is this can open and close. Let me make this bigger so we can see. So this is what we call an NMDA receptor. Not really important what's the name, but this membrane requires a lot of DHA. However, around this receptor, now I need higher levels of cholesterol, okay, and higher levels of omega-6 and maybe even saturated fats. So this receptor remains stable in the membrane and it can float on a sea of DHA. But to make sure it doesn't tip over, it wants to have more saturated fats like the cholesterol and other kinds of fats. So this is very, very tightly regulated. And now, look here. You can see on the left top corner, the zinc modulatory side and the magnesium binding side. So these minerals, they do a ton of functions in blood pressure, immune system, building collagen, whatever. There's tons of functions. But just to make sure you can shut down the brain during the night so you can sleep, that's where these minerals come in. And to make sure people just don't are switched on all day long. And maybe you have met people. Some people, they use antidepressants to suppress their feelings a little bit and their expression. And some people don't, but they're still like on and they laugh like very loudly with the simplest thing. They lack the magnesium. They have no control on an on and off switch. So again, you see how this energy booster works so super nicely combined with the pure article gold and our lifestyles. It just controls all these minerals. Okay, so here's the magnesium. It controls stress and sleep and relaxation. But look at the number of other things. Again, opening, Hogne said, so many medicines. Anticoagulation, that means blood thinning medication. Inflammation, that means pain, that means you need painkillers. Not good. Neurotransmitters, because people don't feel nice. Just think about the gut, how you can work this. ATP production, that's how you make your energy. Just to make sure your DNA and RNA synthesis remains well. Magnesium again. Antioxidant, heart function, endothelial function. So the blood pressure is just below. Prevent atherosclerosis combined with the vitamin K2. Insulin sensitivity. We have just mentioned everything. Do we really understand how important the brain, how importantly the brain needs the energy booster? Anything to add, Burra? And fat oxidation means burning fat as a resource of calories. That's cool. Right?
Yeah.
Good. Are we going to close it?
Yeah, we can close with this one. Sum it up. Maybe Hogne, you can.
Maybe he's still there. It was silent for a while.
I've been listening all the time to the very wise man, and
Okay.
I've enjoyed this very long half hour of good conversation.
Yeah. Well,
But I think that the main message we have been I've been listening to is that yes, the brain is still important. Yes, we know that 40% of normal healthy people today will get problem with Alzheimer, dementia if they don't are active. So what we can do is, in fact, as we have been talking about, use the body we have, eat healthy, have a healthy lifestyle, and instead of taking the shortcut to use drugs to get rid of pains and small problems, do something with your life, do something with your lifestyle. And the advices from Erik-Alexander and Børre is to secure that if you don't have enough of the omega-3 or the vitamins and so on, the ecology products is the best choice you can have. So I say thank you a lot, Børre. Thank you a lot, Erik-Alexander. And we meet again. And the secret on top of all these things is that music in itself will stimulate the brain to be the best version of itself. So therefore, find your best music, enjoy life, and we meet again soon. Take care.
Thank you.